Voters in India have given Narendra Modi a second term as Prime Minister, with the BJP winning an absolute majority in the Lok Sabha. Thanks for joining us on Bloomberg Quint. I'm Harsha Subramanian. Where is the BJP drawing its strength from? What does this mandate mean for policy making at the centre for the next 5 years? To discuss all of this and more, we're joined by Dr. Subramanian Swamy, BJP leader, Member of Parliament at the Rajya Sabha. Dr. Swamy, thank you so much indeed for joining us. What do you think worked in the BJP's favour this time? The magnitude of this victory has been much higher than what was anticipated.
Yes, it was inevitable. It would be this kind of a tsunami, as it's being called, because this time the elections were much more on the emotional aspect of national security, fighting corruption, a national outlook for all the same. The behavior with Pakistan when they killed our Jawans, it was instantaneous, and it was our aeroplanes went in and bombed inside Pakistan. These are all new things. So I think all these things put together, there was a feeling of pride. That was one aspect. And the second is between 2014 and 2019. These 5 years, a new generation also joined the voter list. And this younger generation is getting to be, with each succeeding generation, younger generation, more and more nationalistic. And that we are watching in social media also. And so they gave the kind of the cherry on the pie, so to speak. They became a sheet anchor for us. They were catalysts. They were able to persuade their mothers and fathers, brothers, sisters. So there was a lot of invisible factors which were being missed out by the normal, our usual media. And that's why they got it wrong for quite a long time till the exit poll came. And the final result is a chemistry that has worked and not mathematics.
Okay. Dr. Swamy, the economy as we speak faces some serious challenges. Firstly, jobs. What to your mind are the key economic priorities that this government needs to be addressing now?
Well, I think first of all, I would say the most important thing that needs to be done to get the economy back on the rails, it is literally derailed in these last 5 years, is to give an emotional fillip. And therefore, we have to see what really would appeal. Raising interest rates is an example for fixed deposits. That would give the big boost. People have been reducing their savings because it's become they are not able to meet their commitments, so we have to encourage them to get back to saving more. Abolition of income tax, I've been for a long time advocating. That would be a psychological boost, a huge psychological boost, because of the harassment of taxes. Our party got a bad name, our government got a bad name because of what they call as tax terrorism. Third thing is that to generate more capital formation, we have to reduce interest rates on loans, and the prime lending rate must go down to less than 9 or less than 9%. And all these are doable, and these are how you start. And then I think the agriculture sector, we should now start the long-term process of making them as exporters, because the cost of agriculture products is the cheapest in the world. But we are not able to package it, we are not able to reach it to the ports on time. There's the turnaround for ships is still taking too long. And we should have our embassies working like other embassies of other countries to market these things. So I think these are some of the things we have to start with. And the longer run, we have to raise the rate of investment to the point where after some amount of capital efficiency in the use of capital, we should be able to generate 10% growth rate. 7% growth rate will not solve your unemployment problem. You need a 10% growth rate. And for that, we need to now motivate people to not only save but invest. I wouldn't give too much importance to money from abroad, but I would place much more emphasis that the Indians should get back to what they are known to be doing for centuries, that is save and save and save.
Okay. Sir, as we speak, there is also an ongoing trade war between US and China that lurks in the backdrop. You alluded to the export sector. What, to your mind, are the implications on India's exports then?
Well, I think I've been advocating for some time, even some of my textbooks which have been prescribed in universities, that China's growth model was essentially at the core importing semi-processed goods from East Asia, adding value and then re-exporting it to European and American and to America. And the East Asian countries had stopped being able to directly export to Europe and America because their labor costs had gone up very substantially. So Shenzhen and Dalian and all these places, these upgrading of, the semi-processed goods being converted to final goods was done in China. China's manufacturing sector actually is very little indigenous. It's mostly foreign financed or joint ventures or Chinese companies adding value. So I thought India should be more concerned not with the US, American, Chinese snafu or their conflict, but much more to persuade East Asian countries to come and do the processing in India. And the East Asian countries would prefer it because we got a good, strong intellectual property regime, and we also have courts, and contracts cannot be cancelled at a moment's notice. So they would like to come, but our infrastructure has been awful, and 5 years Nitin Gadkari did a lot of good work, but still in terms of smooth movement within that infrastructure, that has to be aimed at. The day we do that, that's the end of China, because China has still not been able to rebalance its economy, and it still relies on this foreign exchange inflow that comes between the cost they pay to the semi-processed goods and the revenue they get by selling it abroad.
Okay, so you've been extremely vocal and articulate on India's economic challenges. One concern is that one didn't see in the previous term people in the government who presented an economic vision. Would you be willing to take up a job in the government this time?
Yeah, I don't want to say that I would be willing. I'm a member of the party. As a member of the party, I'll accept anything they give me. But unless they ask me to travel abroad, like Narendra Modi asked me to become president of the BRICS Bank in Shanghai. I said, I've just left America and come here to settle in India, and I'm not going to go about. So anything that they give me which uses my expertise, I certainly would be very happy and willing, but I'm not going to ask for it.
Okay. I'll move on to the next topic. And with such a massive mandate that allows the government to push through, bills in both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, do you think the time has come for India to perhaps look at the second generation of reforms on areas like labor? Would the time be ripe for that?
Yeah. Yes, it is. Labor, I think the more important thing is that if you want to have more labor-intensive technology to be used, so far people have been discouraged in the industrial world because these labor unions have been a headache. Of course, over the years it has become easier, but you should really enable people, the companies, to be able to have a modified firing system, hire fire system. And the modification is that you would, if you find that somebody is not working, you can fire him and send him home, but you must continue to send his paycheck for 3 years or 2 years. This could be negotiated till he finds another job. And if he can't find a job, another job in 2 years, then he's not fit to be anyway in employment anywhere. So if you do that, I think companies will employ much more people than they are presently doing so. So that kind of labor reform, I don't think we have yet reached a situation where we can give unemployment compensation and things like that for everybody. But we must begin to start moving in that direction. I would say perhaps the tax advantages for the corporate sector should be for whatever they build in terms of schools, buses to ferry the workers to the factory, housing, so on. All these things should be liberally, the total amount that the companies spend for their employees on this, medical, all these should be made tax exempt. And this is the way I think we can do both, be a little strict and on the discipline for labor, and work towards a better productivity, and at the same time win over the labor, saying that these other things we are doing for you, which makes your life much more safe.
Okay, I want to talk about politics as well, Dr. Swamy. And this massive mandate by the BJP in the state of Karnataka also puts pressure on the very fragile Kumaraswamy government there. Do you think it will survive?
It shouldn't survive. You see, it was wrong in the first place because we were the single largest party and we were only 4 or 5 short of the majority. And this matter went to the Supreme Court, and we had an awful lawyer who said that he was ready for a floor test within 24 hours. The governor had given you 15 days, and we would have got the majority. But you know, there was some undercurrent. Perhaps somebody didn't want Yadurappa to be chief minister. I don't know what the problem was, but it was a very bad thing to have done. And so in that short period, you know, the people who are, I'm not talking about breaking Congress or anything, but within the framework of the defection law, I think the JDS would have had to force to come with us, and we could have had them as partners without giving them the chief ministership. So, but we missed that chance. Now it's quite clear that BJP is solid like a rock, where these people are fighting like, you know, like cats and dogs, as they say. And it's only a matter of time. It may not even take more than a week before this government falls, and our government is called to form an alternative government. Our party is asked to form an alternative government.
Sir, I have time for one more question. On the more contentious issues, Mandir, Article 370, do you think the Modi administration would move forward, or do you think he's likely to exercise caution?
No, there's no question. The Mandir is a problem solved. After this mediation proceedings, in which I was also a party, had to make a presentation, we as a ruling party, I can tell you, we don't have to wait for a court verdict at all. Narasimha Rao government had nationalized the entire land, and he used the act which he then modified into a separate act, which was used for zamindari system, where the zamindars were going to court. So to prevent the court, the Article 300A was included in our constitution, which said that government has eminent domain, which means it can nationalize any land of anybody in the public interest. So in the public interest, he had nationalized the entire land, including that disputed area. So all that the Supreme Court can do in such a matter is, if you nationalize the land, is that compensation should be adequately paid, and if it's not adequately paid, they can come to court. But the court cannot challenge the takeover of the land by the government. So the government has the 67.07 acres of land. The disputed area is only 313 acres. And I am telling my government, you don't have to ask the court for permission. It was, I don't know whose silly advice it was to tell the government that you have to take permission to hand over the land. This entire land, including the disputed land, can be handed over to, say, the Ram Janmabhoomi Nyas Samiti or Vishnu Parishad or some body like that, and say, start building the temple, and inform the Supreme Court that when you pass the judgment in the appeals that are pending before you, we will give compensation to that party who you say has the title. They will not get the land because the land belongs to the government now. And therefore the matter is solved. And the government has to talk to the various Muslim leaders and tell them that masjids are shifted all over in the Arab world. Why they can't be shifted in our country? We'll give you another place and build it into a township if you like. But where Ram was born, there's only one place in the whole country. And therefore, we are not going to part with it, and that we are handing it for building a temple. The matter can be solved, and it will be solved along these lines within the next 6 months, I believe.
Dr. Swamy, we leave it there. Thank you so much indeed for joining us, and thank you for your time. That was Dr. Subramanian Swamy from the BJP. If you have been, thank you so much for watching.